Hola! So today I am going to tell you the sad story and fact that my stalker doesn't even love me. And I know you're probably thinking that's an odd thing to know or to think about, or how does that even work? And we'll get into that. Trust me, we'll get into that. And so I have had a few stalkers in the past, and one of them I have seen quite frequently. I have willingly invited into my life. And you're probably thinking, why would you do that? And I'm thinking the same thing. But what happened was, about 2 years ago, I met a guy on a dating app and we hooked up. You know, it was really good. It was really big. We know I love that. And he, you know, seemed really nice, but he just wasn't ticking all the boxes for me. And so I planned on never seeing him again. And he spent a whole year calling me every 2 weeks. He'd call, he'd say, hey, like, are you available? Like, do you have some time to see me? All of this stuff. Like, he was real, again, every 2 weeks for a whole year. He wanted to see me. He was really, really interested, really wanting that. And I was always like, no, I don't want to see you, like, get a grip. This is never going to happen again. All of this stuff for a whole year. And then in that time, I did start seeing someone, and it wasn't a healthy relationship. So when that relationship ended and I was ready to start, you know, getting frisky, feeling flirty, I said, sure, why not? Come over. You know, what's the worst that could happen? Well, the worst that could happen is me ending up liking him. So this is exactly how my love life goes, which is not a surprise to anyone that knows me. So I invite him over, he comes over, he's like really excited, it's like really good. We're, you know, doing things. We also, did something I thought I would never do, and I'm surprised, and we continued to do that like a few more times. I'll get into that. So that was really cool. And then we hung out after, we were talking. I really started to like him. I was like, you know what? And when I met him, he was cute, but somehow he got cuter, and he still keeps getting cuter. I hate to admit, but that is just the truth. So, you know, we would talk for a little bit, and then he left, and I was like, okay, cool, whatever. Didn't really think about it. And then I was like, yeah, like, come over again, because it was really fun. I want to do that again. And this was like, after not seeing each other for a week, I think we saw each other for a year. And me being like, no, like, never gonna happen, get a grip, like, move on with your life, like, I'm so much better than this. A few days after that second time, he came over again, and I think within a week we saw each other 3 times, and it was, you know, it was really cool. The second time, we were talking, and he was like, oh, you know, I remember you from high school. And I was like, oh God, here we go. Because I was a bit of a disaster in high school. I was not the same person I am now, in a lot of ways. And I was like, oh, here we go. Especially because I'm like starting to like this guy. I'm like, no, I don't want him to remember anything like too crazy or like too bad about me. I don't think he would admit if he did. And he was like, yeah, like I always thought you were really hot. I always like wanted to get with you, but I was like scared and like nervous and all of this and all of that stuff. And I'm like, oh, like, that's really cute, that's really sweet. In my head thinking like this is cute, like, how cool, you know? And I just like had come out of a really bad relationship, so it was like, I was like, oh, like, maybe that all happens, so this can happen. And I probably got in my head a little bit too much and was trying to like move on more than anything. And so that was the 3rd time we had ever like hooked up, right? And the 4th time, which was not the last time, but the 4th time, and this would have been about at the end of last year. He comes over, we do our thing, it's really good, it's like really good, you know, definitely, I wouldn't say number one, I'm not gonna say number one, but I would say top 3, definitely in the top 3 realm, and it's just really good, and like, we hang out for like, I think about 2 hours afterwards, which is like, it's late, it's like getting into the morning, and we're talking, and we're hanging out, and like, it's just really good. Like, we have like banter, we have jokes, he's really sweet, he obviously really likes me, he has obviously always really liked me. I'm like, wow, this is really cool, like, you know, like, how cool, like, I'm excited, because like I said, I just came out of a really shitty relationship, and now I'm like, oh, this could be like good and fresh and fun. And then we're talking, and he had told me his name was Matt. And I had actually so before, in between the second and third time we hooked up, and I don't know how I missed this, because this is probably integral to this entire story, he was like texting me, and he was like, you know, I'm starting to get really attached to you, I really like you, all of this stuff, and I was like, cool, like, I like that, and, you know, I like you too. And he goes, you don't know anything about me. And I was like, what? Yeah, I guess that's true. You also don't really know anything about me. You probably know a little bit more about me than I know about you, because, you know, you can literally just Google facts about my life. You know, and I'm a pretty transparent person. But I just was a little suspicious, and I was like, is your name actually Matt? And he was like, yes. And I was like, I just don't believe you. For whatever reason, I don't believe you. And he was like, I'm really sorry you feel that way. And we kept talking, everything was fine. Then, as I said, we hooked up again, and this is when we were talking for hours afterwards. And we were talking about tabloids, and how, you know, like, I have these stories come out about me, and I'm gonna have to come up with, like, a fake name for him, because I don't want to do that to him. What should I call him? Let's call him Gabriel, because I don't think I know anyone named Gabriel. We'll call him Gabriel. So, we're talking about tabloids, and he's like, well, nobody calls me and says, hey, Gabriel, do you have a story? Mind you, he told me his name was Matt. So I go, Gabriel? Who is Gabriel? And his face just, like, drops, and he's like, yeah, you know, like, I don't go by that name, like, everybody knows me as Matt, even my boss, like, calls me Matt, and I'm like, well, that's not true. That's just not true. And, like, we get into it a little bit, and he's like, you know, like, I'm a really private person, and you're not, and I guess I just was nervous, all of this stuff. And I get that. I get when I, like, start seeing a guy and they're like, I'm really private. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen. All of this stuff. I totally get that. And so I like to keep a level of privacy. I am, in a lot of ways, a very private person, especially when it comes to my relationships and all of that stuff. And he, you know, people can't just assume that's true. And so I tried to be understanding, and I was like, no, I get it, like, you know, you know, I live a certain way that you don't, I totally get that, but lying to me about your name is, like, very deceitful, and that's very hurtful, and that really upsets me, which started a lot of, issues for me, because I did like him, and I do like him, I still think he's relatively a nice guy, and you know, we'd keep texting, and I'd be like, you know, like, that's uncalled for, like, I'm still a little hurt about it, and then he'd just, like, stop responding. And I'd be like, what? So, you know, that made it kind of worse in a lot of ways, and I kind of felt like an idiot for being like, I'm gonna be understanding. I'm gonna be understanding with this one, because in the past, I've had the habit of not being understanding, and I don't want to make that same mistake again, regardless of what happens or regardless of how he feels about me or I feel about him. I'm just going to try and be understanding, and I'm going to do my best to be understanding, because not everyone lives how I live and not everyone sees the world in the way that I do. So that's what I tried to do. And then we didn't talk for a little bit, then we would talk, and then I'd still be upset, and I'd like let him know I was upset, which obviously is not always well, no, it's good to, you know, communicate, but sometimes I don't do that in the best way. And then I was like, okay, you know what, like, I just want this to... Oh, no, I'm forgetting a huge thing. He blocked my texts for like a day. And I was like, I was so pissed, because I was like, this was really like in the heat of it, where I was like, I'm still not over the fact that you lied to me about your name. That doesn't make me happy. Like, do you understand why that hurts me? Do you understand, like, what's wrong with that? And, you know, he'd be like, oh, I'm not looking for commitment, which I don't really think at the time I was looking for commitment, or that's even... I didn't see that within the realm of, like, what we had going on. It hardly was kind of circumstances where I was like, commitment, this is the one, you know, but you still expect a level of honesty and respect from somebody that you invest any kind of time in. And so, I guess, you know, it maybe got a bit too much for him, and he blocked my number for one day, and I was like, how fucking dare you? I was seeing red. I get mad, I get bothered. I'll say I get bothered, but it's not often I get mad, and when I get mad, even I can't handle it. So I was really mad. It was like, I was like, how dare he? After a whole year of chasing me down, I finally, you know, say, sure, like, let's give it a whirl, and he lies to me about his name, and now he can't even, like, you know, have the decency to, like, address this with me. How dare he, after, you know, wanting to sleep with me in high school and for years and years, and, like, you know, he would say things to me like he could never believe that, like, I would sleep with him and all of this stuff. And, like, I think he's, like, pretty attractive. Like, I think he's really good looking, and he's obviously very intelligent, and, you know, he does check a lot of boxes. And so I guess in some ways, because of that, and because of him lying to me, it kind of brought out some of my insecurities, which I didn't notice. I kind of, you know, was on the defense of being like, how dare you? And I guess instead of addressing the insecurities that it brought up with me, and not to just say, like, this is all my fault, or be like, oh, I need to work on myself if some guy lies to me. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I just mean, like, I probably addressed certain things that weren't the reason I was upset. And I was furious. He blocked me for like a day, and then the next day he was like, have you calmed down yet? And that actually, I don't know why, and I don't know how, and maybe if you know anything about, like, the psyche, you might be able to tell me why this happened. But when he said that, I kind of was like, that made me happy. And that's probably not a good thing. I probably should have still been like, how fucking dare you? Maybe, I don't know. I'm only 23. I'm still figuring this all out. But I was like, oh, like, he just, like, wanted me to, like, chill out. And I get that it was a bit much for him. I'm still gonna address these things with him, but in a different way. And then, you know, after all of this drama of, like, I didn't tell you my name because I'm a very private person. I don't want people to, you know, come and, like, attack me and, like, say things about me that... When you look me up, you see all the kinds of things people say about me. And he, you know... I can appreciate that he's in a place where he doesn't want to commit, or isn't ready to commit for, you know, various reasons that I'm not going to get into, because that's not my story, that's his. And that, even though I'm making a story about my experience with him, like, I wouldn't go and, like, you know, talk about his whole, what he's got going on and all of that stuff. But I can appreciate that there's still certain things that he does with me that he probably wouldn't do with a lot of people, and is probably a bit of a stretch for him, that he's just making to help me be happy, which I totally appreciate, and that's definitely one of the good things that I see in him, among other things. And he definitely did the right thing in telling me that he had seen someone else, and that really upset me. It brought up those insecurities again, and that's when I got a little bit more crazy, but not as crazy as I had the previous time, which I don't want to make this sound like I'm subduing myself for anyone, but I just was already in a place where I was like, I don't think that matters. That upsets me that how I saw it was you invested time in a way that you wouldn't invest in me. And it kind of like stirred up some issues, and then I was like, you know what, I'll look past it. Okay, I know how I feel about any kind of like compatibility, okay? I know how I feel about that, but the sex is good. And better the devil you know, right? That's kind of always been my motto with a lot of things. Better the devil you know. Gets me into some trouble, so it probably shouldn't be my motto, but that's been my motto quite a bit. And so I was like, hey, do you want to like come over? Do you want to hang out? Do you want to, you know, do what it is we do? And he's like, yeah, of course. I'm like, do you want to stay over? And he's like, yeah, I do. And then like a few hours, I think the next day he's like, oh, I don't think I'll be able to stay over, but I can do Saturday. And I'm like, cool. Like, I was pretty excited that you were going to stay over, but you know, that's a shame that you're not, but whatever. Like, this isn't really going anywhere in any capacity other than sex. And that's, you know, for various reasons. And I'm like, cool. And then on the Saturday, I'm like, hey, what time are you coming over? And he's like, I can't make it. And I just was like, this guy that chased me down for a whole year, called me every 2 weeks for a whole year, has wanted to see me since high school. And we're the same age, so that's a long time ago. You know, all of this stuff. And he's like, I can't make it after, and I'm still kind of like, you made a commitment to someone else that you haven't made to me yet. Not that I'm looking for any kind of relationship, but you know, I think very highly of myself, and when I give people my time, I guess this is probably this is a personal issue that I actually am continuously trying to work on, is that I see myself far more valuable than, I guess, other people's lives and what they have going on. I think, like, I don't invest my time in a lot of people, and so when I do, I'm like, how dare you? Even though, like, I'm a person, you know, things come up, like, you can't always make it to everything, and things change for whatever reason, and some things, like, you can only do this time, but I can do that another time, and I need to, like, change this around, but I just wasn't feeling that way when he said that, so I blocked him. I was like, I'm gonna block you. I'm gonna block your number. I'm moving on with my life. And then, he messaged me through a dating app. Like, he clearly, I'm assuming, had just made the profile to message me, and to see if I was on there is kind of what I gathered, because I ended up seeing him again. And it wasn't how it normally was, and I don't know why, and I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. I don't know if that means anything. I guess it doesn't have to mean anything, because I don't think it's going anywhere, and I don't know if he thinks it's going anywhere. Well, here's the thing, is neither one of us, and I know this to be true, is neither one of us are like people that commit long term. And so that, in a way, has kind of made things possible. It hasn't made things easy, but it's made things possible. And I guess, like, over the 2 years, even though we didn't see each other for a whole year, but I guess, you know, technically we've spoken for 2 years straight. That's kind of like a huge accomplishment for the both of us. So I don't think, like, it's just, like, done and dusted. But again, I still don't think it's going anywhere. If anything, I imagine it'll end up just being an every now and then, like, hey, hope things are going well. I am, like, married now. Which, last time I saw him, we actually talked about who was most likely to get married and who wasn't. And I believe that I'm the most likely to get married for many reasons. But yeah, that is the story about how my stalker, and I'm using stalker loosely because I've had some, like, legit stalkers that, like, want to hunt me down and, like, you know, not be a good person. But you get the idea. Like, it was a long time before he caught up to me, and then when he did, kind of just left me in the dirt, and I don't know what to learn from that. I'm sure I'll learn something. But yeah, and also I think when we talk about stalkers, we're like, and I'm definitely not like that about Gabriel? What did I call him Gabriel or Gabrielle? Anyway, I'm just rambling, and I'm sure none of that made sense to anyone, because God knows when I finish this video, when I press the stop, I'm going to remember all the, like, important details and never do anything about adding those in. So, thanks for watching. Check out my other videos. They're interesting. You've probably noticed I have had my nose fixed. I will be filming an update on my nose. You can probably see it's quite swollen. I am going to finish that later today, film that later today, and yeah, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram. You know how it all goes. You know what, you get the gist, you get the idea. And look out for my new music once it's out. It should be out soon. And some other appearances. Bye!